Presenting to you
the interactive space for critical and objective open thinking.
With MartianUFO. Produced by MartianUFO Media. The best podcast on air with your hearty host. Catch episodes weekly on Apple and Spotify podcasts.
Hello? Oh.
Up on me.
Hey. Hello?
And I'm not quite ready. I'm
No
still
worries.
getting myself ready.
No worries at all. Take your time.
So hi.
Hi.
I am almost connected. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Pretty good. Yes.
Turn my camera on for you. There you go.
Getting a lot done.
Yeah, on a Friday.
Oh. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Oh, how you doing?
I'm Eli.
I'm Hardy.
Hardy.
Yes.
And my hair's a mess. I never look in the mirror. So then when I see
All
myself
good.
on Zoom, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, no, I feel you. On camera, it's a lot different. I don't feel the same appearance or whatever, but yeah.
I also get kind of antsy. So I ride my exercise bike while I talk. So if you see me going like this.
For real?
Doing totally.
That's dope. I mean, I feel like that would help me. Yeah, you definitely.
Because I do so many meetings now.
Mm-hmm.
It really helps me not get too antsy.
Definitely. I like that. I might add that. Actually, that's very good. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
right.
what have you been up to today before the broadcast so far?
Let's see. All of a sudden, I have all these legal cases starting all at once for my expert witnessing. I've got 2 different divorces that just came up out of nowhere.
And I kind of understand what you're talking about, because I went last night and I subscribed to your YouTube and I watched the video, the last one that you did from last year, and I like that. So I kind of got like a bit of a dip the toes in the water for a little bit just to see what. Mm-hmm.
Great. When I did something on law last year that's on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I do so many things I don't even remember what's up there.
Oh, you were talking about family and the children and just how the dynamics in the polyamorous families work, when the children leave the home and things like divorce and how it's hard. And sometimes I remember you said specifically the parents might draw back so that their child can have a relationship with the in-laws parents, and that specifically I remember that and everything like that in the video. So
cool. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Found it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was good. Yeah. Definitely. Well, I've never really known a lot about polyamory, to be honest, and I like looking at your profile, seeing that you're the leader. Basically, you're the number one person to go to, especially with families and children. So
yes, definitely about the families and kids, not about some other things, I would say. But
no,
the field's gotten a lot bigger. It used to be much smaller.
Yes.
Now there's a ton of people researching. So
do you think generally the society's become more accepting to?
Are we taping? Because this would be good stuff for the show.
Oh yeah, we're live right now.
Great. Oh, we're going out live to everybody. Well, hey, so that's what live means up in the corner.
Yeah.
There.
Oh yeah. It's all you can't hide nothing. We're all they see everything.
I would say that it has become definitely more socially acceptable, more widely known.
Yeah. Yes.
Definitely in the past 10 years, especially, but really since the internet, that changed everything for people being able to find each other and meet each other and get advice and
you said the online space is quite big for
And
how
even
did you sorry
finding out that's okay. Even finding out that it's an option, like you can be monogamous or cheat or negotiated and be consensual about it. I think a lot of people don't really know about that third option. So in the past 20 years, it's just been so much.
Well, that's very interesting, right? Because a lot of people, the cheating thing that comes up a lot, like where's the line? Where's the discrepancy between cheating and then when it's, we got an arrangement, it's consensual, like how do you talked about when one partner wants to be monogamous and then the other person is a non-monogamous and how that works out.
That's really hard. Generally, the line between cheating and consensual non-monogamy is, does everyone know about it? Has everyone had the ability to talk about it and say, this is what I want from this? What do you want from this? How are we going to structure this? Is it negotiated, or does one person just do it and then come back and say, by the way, honey, I've been hooking up with somebody else. We're polyamorous now. That never goes well.
No,
that's not a good way to start it at all. But when people negotiated and talk about it before they do it, and I think when people especially think about how are they going to feel when their partner has other partners. Like it's easy for us to think, oh, I could have that person and that person and that person, and wouldn't that be fun? Like for me.
Because with that, is it kind of unlimited for polyamory? Is it unlimited partners or?
It depends on the relationship. I would say some people do kind of have this unlimited desire for the new all the time. I think other people, especially if they have lasting and ongoing relationships, really it seems like 2 or 3 is about the most people can maintain over time. Once you get up into like 5 and 6, you just don't have enough time.
It's a lot to juggle,
but it
right?
depends. It is. And it depends on what they expect from you. If it's 5 and 6 where you once a month meet and hang out 4 people together, then it's easy to juggle 5. That's low stress. But if it's people wanting, you have 5 partners and it's important to all of them that you're with them on their birthday,
then
what happens on New Year's Eve? Either everybody's together or people are kind of like, how do we work this out? I'm with you this year and that person next year. So it can be definitely a lot of work to figure out how to coordinate everything. So I guess that's one of the main reasons I usually say that polyamory is not for everyone. Certainly not for everyone.
No.
But for some people, it's really the only way they live. So? Oh, yes. Absolutely. I think it is as much of a form of orientation as sexual orientation.
Yes.
And I say that partially because I have a thing for polyamorous people, but I'm monogamous. Like when I'm in love with someone, I just love them. But for whatever reason, I have a thing for polyamorous people. So when I first start dating them, it's no problem. Like, sure, see anybody you want. But as soon as I fall in love, I'm like,
it's different.
Now I want you to just want me.
That's very interesting, actually.
Yeah. And for some other people I've talked to, mostly in my research, they've said that they've tried hard to be monogamous in the past. They've really tried. They put, like everything they had into it. Sometimes because they were in a religious community where having sex outside your marriage was going to cost you everything.
Everything, yeah.
Or sometimes because they had children and like a family business and this, like a house and like just so much of a life built up that if they stepped outside of that, there could be significant consequences.
Yes, I remember you said in polyamorous relationships, and I don't know between the United States and Canada, sorry, are they don't recognize it as a legal bond?
No.
So if you split, you said something about there being no alimony, no help. The person who was in a better financial position before, their finances go up, and the person who was kind of down, their finances go down a little bit.
Yeah. And they may not have access to the kids anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a really big deal. If they help to raise the kids, they won't get visitation or custody. If they have no biological or legal relationship with that child, they can't ask for custody. I mean, the parents could allow them to see the child, and in some cases that happens. Especially if it's a collegial breakup or things kind of change over time and people aren't really super angry at each other. And especially if there's someone in the kind of larger family network, what the polyamorous call a polycule, kind of the family. If there are people who weren't having sex with each other in the polycule, those are the people that have an easier time connecting around the kids. Like, hey, let's meet and go bowling or something. These two people who have, maybe still a friendship.
Yeah.
That didn't change as much.
Exactly. Kind of bond,
Exactly. So I made up a word for that, polyaffective.
Polyaffective. I bet you have your own dictionary of poly terms because you're writing so many books that.
And the polyamorous people make up all sorts of words because there aren't words to describe things. Like they made up the word compersion to describe the opposite of jealousy, where you see your partner with someone else having fun and you're like, oh, that's so great. Yay, them. I want them to have fun. That's compersion.
So
they make up a ton of words.
Kind of like kind of positive jealousy, not jealousy, but it would be
in situations that might make some people jealous. It's a feeling of happiness for your partner.
For sure.
So it's kind of almost easier to understand. It's like, let's say your sister gets a raise at work. You don't get that raise. It's not doing anything for you, but you're happy for her because she got it.
Absolutely.
It's whatever that feeling is.
So you're just happy
for your partner. Right. And you might be, maybe your sister gets a raise and you are jealous of her, or you could feel happy for her. It could go either way. Same with this partner.
Definitely. Oh, I thought the Wi-Fi was down here. So I was going to ask you, not being a polyamorous person, you're a monogamous person. How did you first get into this space?
I fell in love with someone who wanted to have multiple partners. And I thought it meant that I was too fat or bad in bed, which a lot of monogamous people, when they hear their partner wants other people, they're like, it's a lack on my part.
Yeah.
Because when I'm really in love with someone, I don't really want other people.
No.
I can kind of notice that they're attractive. It's not like I'm deadened to the world, but it's all noticing up here. It doesn't travel any further south in my body. I'm all like, oh yeah, nice,
Yeah.
Whereas I think for people who are deeply polyamorous, that's not the case. It's not that there's a lack in their partner. It's that no matter who they're with, they will always want multiple partners. They're just wired that way. They are literally constructed that way, the same way some people are heterosexual and other people are gay or bi or whatever. I think some people are just oriented towards multiplicity.
Yeah.
So it's the problem when one of us who's more mono and the other person who's more polyamorous get together. It's just a mixed orientation marriage or relationship.
Absolutely.
In a way. And it's difficult. It's difficult to compromise on monogamy. Kind of, you are either monogamous or not. It's like having a baby. You can't have a little bit of a baby.
No.
If you're truly monogamous, that comes with a set of expectations that don't really allow for having sex with other people.
No.
So some people are able to work that out. And for some people, it's incredibly difficult. And even if they really love each other deeply, it doesn't always work.
No.
Sometimes, they split up. And it's challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it a lot. I do a relationship coaching practice.
Yes.
And I think maybe people gravitate to me for that specifically because I'm so familiar with it. And there's a little bit of a thing in some polyamorous settings where they're like, if you were truly evolved, you could be polyamorous. Like, you're just not polyamorous because you're too kind of small and grasping and immature. And if you were just evolved, then of course you could love more people. And first of all, bullshit on that.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you feel that? Sorry, do you feel that society kind of places it on people to be monogamous, especially if you do come from like a religious background and things like that?
Yeah. Absolutely. So that it's kind of an overreaction to that. Some people call that society pushing monogamy on you. Mm-hmm. They call it compulsory monogamy.
Yeah.
And I tried to name that, talk about making up words. I tried to name that in 1997. I named it monocentrism. And my colleagues were like, that's a terrible word. We're not using that word. So I made that word up and nobody uses it. Everybody uses compulsory monogamy instead. So I'm like, all right, I'll use that word. Here we go.
They're like two words instead of one. That's what it is.
Or I guess it was confusing. It sounds monocentrism sounds too much like you're being alone.
Absolutely.
Like, or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
So compulsory monogamy is clearer. And I've adopted it with the field.
For sure.
So that kind of holier than thou idea around polyamory could certainly be a reaction to compulsory monogamy. Like, you get monogamy stuff down your throat all the time. Then in turn, there's, if you're in the subculture of polyamory, you're getting polyamory stuff down your throat.
Yeah. And it's just a bit of friction kind of.
Yes, it can be especially difficult for the mixed orientation folks.
And when people come to you for the relationship coaching, do they does that kind of tie into the bonding project? Because I did that.
Oh, that's you took the test. Awesome. I want to hear how you did.
I'll give you my results.
Awesome. Actually, my coaching practice and the bonding project are separate, but I have been suggesting to my coaching clients that they check out the bonding project. Mm-hmm. The bonding project is a test people can take online right now, although it's great on your phone. It works probably best on your phone, but I take it also on a laptop.
For sure.
And hopefully it'll become an app in the near future. Yeah, easier. But it helps you kind of think about whether you might want to bond one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, or solo. And then in each of those 4 categories, it tells you if you are comfortable, curious, cautious, or challenged.
Yeah.
And what did you think of the test? You took it. How long did it take?
I think it took me maybe 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes. I took my time on it. I thought it was very good. Like, these questions aren't usually asked of people anywhere in society or in that kind of format. So I thought that it would help somebody to help understand themselves. It's like taking a personality test or something like that, Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed. So how did your results turn out?
Well, let's see. I don't remember them kind of offhand, but I can bring it up here real quick.
So
And
while
while
you're looking for that, I'll
Mhm.
just say, right now, the bonding project is just this one test. We are working on expanding that in the future. This is our kind of initial thing. In the future, we're planning on having a dashboard where people can take the same test over time and see how they change,
Yeah.
as well as take other tests about, for instance, what kind of living style do you want? Do you want to live by yourself or with one
Multiple
other
people
person,
or
multiple like how do you want to be able to have friends over? Do you want kind of an oasis where you're by yourself and people don't mess with you, things like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then be able to compare results with other people too in that dashboard
Yeah.
thing. So that's where we're headed.
Absolutely. Well, I have them here. So it says that I had a challenge with a form of one-to-one bonding. Interesting,
Mhm.
huh? Curious with a form of one-to-many bonding. Comfortable with the form of many-to-many bonding. And comfortable with the form of solo bonding, which I forget what solo bonding is.
Solo is either being single
Mhm.
and dating other people, or being single and not dating, or having a range of ongoing relationships
Yeah,
that some of them are friendships, some of them are romantic, some of them are sexual, like it's not kind of built around having a partner. You're not built around, this is my spouse and everything revolves around them. You're built
yeah,
around kind of mostly yourself and then doing your own thing as it works for you. It's kind of more fluid and independent.
for sure. For
Some
sure.
people call it relationship anarchy. Some people call it solo polyamory. For other people, it's just being single or dating.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of definitions for
So it's interesting that you're challenged on one-to-one bonding. Do you
it.
find that in your life? Would you prefer to have a range of partnerships instead of one person all the time?
I'm curious. I question, right? I do come from that heavily religious background. I was
Uh-huh.
raised heavy
Mm-hmm.
Catholic, and so in the last couple of years, I've kind of stepped away from the church a little bit and just been, just asking questions and about different things. And I keep hearing that as we kind of move forward into the future, the next couple of years, polyamory and that kind of lifestyle, the alternative type of lifestyle is being accepted more and more by societies all around the world. I'm not sure, and so I just thought that the topic was interesting and how easy it would be for it to be accepted by people for different generations, and if it would be like out wide in the open, or if it would still kind of be closed door. You said, a lot of the meetings happen at night. People mainly connect online and that kind of thing. But mhm,
And they also live in extended families. I mean,
yeah,
online has been super important during COVID. It's been one of the primary ways
for sure.
people have been hanging out and meeting each other and dating.
Mhm,
But it's not, people definitely do a lot of their relating as a family. A lot of polyamorous life is folding laundry and having a glass of wine while you watch Netflix.
yeah,
It's very mundane. It's a lot of like helping the kids with their homework and picking people up from soccer practice.
absolutely. Somebody just commented and said, "This is so interesting." I'm just responding. I'm gonna see maybe if there's anything that they would want to ask you as well, since we have people watching, right? Um,
Can you hear my background sound? Is that bothering you?
oh no, it's all good.
Okay, great.
You can probably hear mine too. I got the heat's going right now, so you can probably hear that maybe.
No problem.
So between your travels, kind of teaching at different universities, did you find kind of a difference or a correlation between the the students you were teaching, and did you do kind of the relationship stuff there? Did people come to you for help or consulting or?
Mm. I generally keep those things separate, actually. Teaching in the university, I'm very much, the professor. I'm, I will help you with your term paper. I will talk to you about whether graduate school is a good choice and how to do that. I will, suggest which class you take next, but I think there's a bright line there where doing relationship talk in that setting.
Yeah.
Even if they come to me for help, I can definitely direct them to resources.
For sure.
But I wouldn't. No.
Can't mix those two things.
But I have had students volunteer for my research to be interviewed for research. Students who are like, hey, I grew up in a polyamorous family. If you're still looking for people to participate, and I'm definitely still looking for especially people who grew up in multiple partner families, multiple adult families, to still participate.
Because you're still running your longitudinal study.
Yep. The research is ongoing. And I'm actually especially interested in Black and other people of color. My original sample is pretty white because, I started in 1996, and the people who felt safe to be out and talking to research, and especially to a white researcher who might judge you for, there's a lot of stereotypes about Black sexuality, about Latino, people of color in general labor under a lot of stereotypes, and to have a white researcher be like, so tell me about your multiple partners. So not that no Black or other people of color participated in my research. I do have some respondents of color, but it's still kind of heavy on the white people, especially among the children. So I'm looking for people, more diverse people who were raised in multiple partner settings to see it.
Do you think it's kind of like in terms of, do you think there's kind of a stigma between different races and it being accepted more and, being accepted less by certain people and everything like that?
I think not necessarily the practice of multiple partner relationships. I think that crosses all sorts of racial and ethnic and social class, but calling it polyamory, labeling it in that specific package, that's a pretty white package historically that has become much more diverse, I would say, especially in the last 10 years. People of color have become driving forces in the leadership of many polyamorous communities. They've started doing all sorts of fantastic research. Kevin Patterson wrote this great book, Love's Not Colorblind. That's an awesome, I would say, the foundational. It's so good. So things are definitely changing there.
For sure.
But especially, I've been doing this research for 25 years. So 25 years ago, it was less safe to come out as polyamorous. So I definitely think people have always had multiple partner relationships, but they haven't necessarily, there's a very white way to come out about it. It's like, listen to me. I'm going to tell you, you are going to listen. Here it is, laying it all out. And that's not right for everyone. And I think in many other settings, there's kind of like Uncle Joe. And people know, like Uncle Joe's around. People make a big deal out of who Uncle Joe is. It's cool. He's coming over for Thanksgiving. Welcome, Uncle Joe. Nice to see you again. And you don't have to have a big announcement about, listen, Uncle Joe is this, So this kind of out loud and proud thing that really came out of the HIV activism movement, where really silence did equal death. You had to speak up or you were going to die. It's not the only way to be out, to handle talking to people. You appear to have frozen. I'm not sure if you can hear me or see me. It seems like the timer is still going. What else else was I going to say? Oh, now it's apparently just me. Or it stopped. Okay, still live. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. We lost the connection there for a second. But I think we're good now, hopefully. Yes. So, I forgot what you were saying.
We were talking about why, like how multiple partners cross lots of racial and ethnic and social class categories, but it's not always the way polyamorous people or that community does it, which tends to have this very white aesthetic or perspective on the right way to come out. And there's only kind of this one right way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned books when you were speaking about that. So I guess kind of speak to your books a little bit. We got, some viewers on here. Maybe they'd like to check them out, read them. You have many, and you're still working on a lot more books.
Yeah, it's true. My first book is The Polyamorists Next Door. And that talks about the first 15 years of the study, kind of presents the families and some background, their advantages and disadvantages. The second book is Stories from the Polycule, which is it's fun. It's light. And it's, do I have it right there? There's my new one right there. I'm just going to grab it.
Absolutely.
That one's really light. Stories from the Polycule. It's an edited volume of, so I just have the, oh no, here it is.
Hey.
Yay. So here's two of them. I only see two in here right now. So here's Stories from the Polycule.
Okay.
And it's stories that polyamorous people have written and I edited. So it's kind of like a day in the life of polyamory or something like that. This one is my newest book, Children in Polyamorous Families.
Yeah.
And this one, I don't know if you can see, it's so short and small. It's really whereas this one is much thicker. This one is really for just a condensed overview of my research findings on kids. So it's written for lay people. It's the kind of book, like if your mother-in-law finds out you're in a polyamorous relationship and is like, oh no, is this going to be bad for your children? You can give her this book and say, it's short, it's small, you can read it in an hour, and then let's talk about it. So it provides a perspective grounded in research, but written for anybody to read.
Yes.
What else did I write? When Someone You Love is Polyamorous is my third book, I think. And that is also would be a good one to give your mother-in-law. It's also grounded in research findings, but it's more of an overview of this is what polyamory is based in the research. This is who does it. This is why. More kind of introduction aimed at people who are not in polyamorous relationships, just to understand it from the research perspective.
To be able to I guess I was going to say help people feel more comfortable with it, but it's not really something that's uncomfortable for the most part. Like,
I think some people are incredibly uncomfortable with it, very uncomfortable with it. Yes, the expert witnessing I do are people are getting their kids taken away seriously because they're in polyamorous relationships. Sometimes they get fired. They lose their housing. Yeah. Bad things can happen to people if they come out as polyamorous, which is why this very white idea of everybody should be out all the time is just not smart for some people. I mean, if you own your own home, you own your own business, and you're a millionaire so you can afford some kick-ass lawyers, then sure, come out. No problem. Yeah. But if you have an ex that might want to take your kids away, or a religious parent who might worry about their grandchildren, do not come. It's not safe. It's not safe. So
So to that regard, do you think that the government will ever recognize polyamorous relationships?
It's starting already in various places. Somerville, Massachusetts
Mm,
passed in the summer of 2020, passed the first really recognized, it was around healthcare and multiple partners being able to access each other, not
okay.
only see each other in the hospital, but cover each other with healthcare insurance.
Very good.
Cambridge, Massachusetts, just passed something, and they're kind of rewriting it now with input from people in the polyamorous community, because some of the things, like there was a requirement that you had to be, in order to be recognized and be able to share your health insurance, you
Okay.
had to be in a socially recognized relationship. So basically they were saying you had to come out, like make an announcement before you
So
could have health
they
insurance.
force you to.
Exactly. And the polyamorous community was like, you know what? That's actually not safe for us. Please don't make us do that.
Mhm.
Berkeley, California has had an ordinance
California
protecting
is kind
people.
of more accepting, I would say, or less. You said California is kind of one of the bigger hotspots that was starting to allow and recognize.
Definitely more accepting, I would
Mm,
say, than, for instance, Texas, or where I am right now, Tennessee, or Alabama, or Arkansas, Louisiana, any of these states in my area,
why do you
not
think that
super accepting.
is?
Well, this region of the US, this southeastern region, colloquial called the Bible Belt. And I
Yes.
think some people are just very against any kind of unconventional sexuality, largely on either religious terms, or it's just a cultural um, conservatism in a way. Not
Hmm.
that there aren't conservative areas of California, absolutely, but the state as a whole
Yeah.
tends to have fairly liberal politics. So if your custody of your children is challenged in California, there's already a state precedent set, for instance, that you can have three parents legally, which is
So
unusual. Mostly you can only have two parents. It's for
interesting.
them to allow a third legal parent is very unusual. New York has also set that legal precedent, but Texas, there is no way they're going
No
to let you
exceptions
have a
there.
third parent. No, no.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, it just really, but there are a lot of people in consensually non-monogamous relationships in California. It's a very all up and down. The West Coast is a concentration of not only that, but other kinds of sex and gender minorities: gay people, bisexual people, transgender folks, gender
So that's
non-binary
an area
people.
where a lot of people are there. They feel comfortable with each other, and you can intermingle and things like that. Like,
Exactly. And the
mhm.
laws and the legislation is more supportive of that in
Oh, that's
California.
good.
Would
That's
be,
good.
yeah.
Why do you think that there's a discrepancy between the pioneers, the veterans, the people who were in this space and kind of set the groundwork? Because you said that they feel neglected or not really um, they don't feel cared about by the younger people who are coming in who feel like they've done all the work and they're just here now, and why is that, you think, that disconnect between the two?
I think that's a larger generational shift we're seeing, really, between especially the baby boomers and the
Hmm.
millennials and
Hmm.
Generation Z. That the
Yes.
millennials and the Zoomers, they just have a lot more fluidity, and they're not interested in these very tightly defined categories of identity. Like, you know, if you're going to
So
say that you're a lesbian, for instance, then does that mean you've never had sex with a man in your life? Or is it okay if it was 20 years ago? How about
mhm.
10 years ago? How about this morning? Can you still call
Yes.
yourself a lesbian? And for
Yeah.
the generation, for the millennials and Gen Z, they're like, who cares? Why are we talking about that? But for the boomers, they're like, they had to fight so hard for that social recognition. They had to really it cost them not only blood, sweat, and tears, but their lives as well for some of them. So they're like,
Absolutely.
you're just throwing away these categories that we invested. It's our life's work to build recognition of this, and you're just casting it off? What? So it's this kind of push and pull. And I think both of them have valid reasons, and there are people in the millennial and the Zoomer generation that are like, hey, props to you, old folks. Thank you for starting Pride. Thank you for establishing gay bars. Thank you for fighting so hard for protections and legal things. And other folks are more like, why are you whining about this? Pride, I'm going to go be fabulous at Pride and stop all the serious things. My Molly's kicking in. Why are you bothering me?
Yeah. Just the difference between generations. Definitely.
Yes. Yes.
And so you're also involved in kind of a different area in your expertise. I wanted to ask you about the kink BDSM stuff a little bit, kind of break into that a little bit. And
absolutely. They've got the same generation gap there. Exactly the same thing that you see among the gay and lesbian community and the polyamorous folks. That you've also got it in the kink community.
Yeah, because that's a very, very alternative lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And so, what have you, I guess, kind of characteristics have you found about that community? I mean, do you have people that come to you for those types of consultant questions or relationship questions and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, sometimes people will come to my relationship coaching business saying, they're interested in checking out kinky sex, but they're not really sure how to get started. And so I help them find resources and considerations. We talk about how, like kind of expectations in the setting, what to wear, how to handle things. If somebody comes on to you and you don't want to connect with them, what do you say? So we can go through and I can direct them to all sorts of resources. And there's a lot of people who, I guess in one sense it is an alternative lifestyle, absolutely. But in another sense, kinkiness is so pervasive, it's really not alternative at all. Think about spanking during sex. True. A lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. And for some people, that's really kinky. For other people, it's like kind of not that big of a deal.
No.
Or pretending to be someone else during sex, even in your own head. That is incredibly common. And those are two primary features of kinkiness. Pretending to be somebody else, role playing, is super common. And what they call impact play, which can be spanking or flogging or whipping or caning or paddling. There's a zillion things. Slapping, like spatula whacking, like all sorts of different, any kind of whacking at all is called impact play. I think one of the most important things to know about BDSM or kinky sex is that it has to be negotiated. It's really important to talk about it first, because even if you think it's hot, if you haven't talked to someone and you just start choking them during sex, that may be super hot. They may even like it, but they might feel like you're trying to kill them. It may freak them out. They may, even if they don't tell you to stop, they might freeze like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. What the hell? So it's really important. Like the difference between abuse and kinky sex is the negotiation and the ability to stop it if you don't like it. Absolutely. Like abuse, you can't say, I'm not liking this abuse. I can we stop now? Whereas in kinky sex, you should be able to use a safe word and say,
For sure.
Calling it off. This isn't working anymore. Let's stop and figure out what just happened and maybe try again a different way, or maybe not, but stop and talk about it.
For sure. And so I guess the importance of communication across all different types of relationship styles, anything like that, is just paramount.
Crucial.
Yeah.
Well, especially when you're going to kind of play with the edge like that. Communication's key anyway, but when you're doing something that really could be damaging to someone if they're not enjoying it, if you're totally getting off on the spanking or whatever, then it's fun. But if the exact same thing, if someone's not enjoying it, can feel not just the physical impact of it, but it can just feel super violating and horrible. So you don't want that with your lovers. You want, the fun. Definitely. The consent is what makes it a fun thing instead of a terrible thing.
Yes. And so kind of in closing here, I guess for our viewers, just to explain all your titles again, your expertise, where people can find you, your website, and the blog, because I put that up there so people can go and check that out as well.
I'm Dr. Elisabeth Sheff, but I usually go by Dr. Eli. I blog on Psychology Today under the name of my first book, The Polyamorists Next Door. You can find my website at elisabethsheff.com. That's ELISABETHSHEFF.com. You can also find the Bonding Project test at bondingproject.com. BONDINGPROJECT.com.
And I think lots of people should take that, by the way. So I think everybody should take that.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It's free.
Yeah.
It takes about 10 minutes. You get your results in an email pretty quick.
You do. And that's it. And I think in terms of going forward, like for people who might be questioning, people who are just seeking or asking questions, like it's a good base, a good foundation to understand, like, especially when it explains the solo bonding, the many to many, one to many, giving you those terms for you to be able to define is very good. So
that's great. I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Dr. Eli, and for all the information that you gave, supplemental knowledge. I think the conversation was very informative, very good, because I don't usually cover stuff like this. But when I saw it, I was like, no, we got to talk about this, because people, especially the stuff that isn't really talked about in the forefront in the open spaces, that has to be brought forward for people who want to be comfortable in that space, right? Like, the more conversation that we have about it is, the
better. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I had fun chatting with you.
I had fun chatting with you too. Thank you. And I hope maybe we can do this again in the future.
Great. Yeah. Maybe when my next book comes out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to do your book. All right.
Great.
Okay. Take care, Dr. Eli. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. All right, everybody. That was Dr. Eli on Floating in Space with MartianUFO, episode 60. And that's actually the first official interview I've done. I hope you guys liked it. I just wanted to do that with her and have the conversation, because I felt like the topic was kind of, out there and a little bit different from the stuff that I normally cover. It was something that, if anybody's interested, just to go look into it and see what you think. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for being there. Thank you for liking, loving the videos, commenting, and I hope you guys share it. I'm going to put it on YouTube and everything like that. It'll be out on the podcast later. Subscribe, and I'm going to keep it going. Keep floating and enjoy your Friday. Have a very good weekend, and take care, guys. We'll see you later.